I am so tired of people running around with a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate. Evil thrives on chaos, misery, and suffering. Welcome to Down to Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is Miss Jenny, and I am your astrologer. This is the horoscope for December 2023. And if you, like me, are sitting someplace warm, dry, and safe, and you have electricity and internet connection, and you're comfortable enough that you can indulge in horoscopes, as opposed to basic survival things. So you're pretty privileged and blessed and protected and supported, as am I, regardless of how tough life is right now otherwise. So this is a really good time to count our blessings, because there's a whole lot of people in the world right now that don't even have homes to run electricity to, much less get the internet. So let's give thanks where thanks is due. Okay, so a couple of things before we get into the video. I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible. The glasses are because, by the way, I'm losing my eyesight. I am type 2 diabetic, and if you also are type 2 diabetic and you have not been as conscientious about managing your blood sugar as you should have been, you know who you are. This is a really important public service announcement and warning that you really want to take it seriously, because one of the first things that may go is your vision. And you don't want to spend the rest of the life starting today moving forward not being able to see. Believe me, I realize some people are a lot better looking. The worse your eyesight gets, the better looking they get. But you also, like, we're visual creatures, so there's a lot you're going to miss in life if you can't see, when you're accustomed to being able to see. So, take care of yourself. All right. So here we are. We're at the end of 2023, and it seems like the fight is not over. And it almost seems as if the fight has come to our backyard now too. It's very difficult to ignore what's been going on in the world, no matter how hard you try, which is good. We are in the process of a tremendous amount of evolution and social change, but on a very quiet level, not like the 1960s, thank God, and certainly not like the 1940s, right? Late 30s, early 40s. Those were much more violent, harsh, severe times. Evolution put the brakes on a whole lot of bad stuff and said, no, 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 you need to be over here. So we're not going through quite that vulgar and gross sort of pressure to change, but it is still there. So all the work being done these days on the inside, which is why it's not so overtly violent, and we're coming away from that. We're moving away from that, right? And it's all about getting your mind right, So we got to take a couple steps back. So although these days might have to take a couple yards of steps back to kind of see the big picture, and we are making progress. We are on our way, and you must hang on to that. Right now, we are in a tremendous battle between people who want to hang on to the past, cling, to a history that served only them. And you'll notice that the only people who want to go backwards are the people who benefit from the old ways of doing things. And becoming better people and finding new and innovative ways to approach the changes that are ahead of us. These things aren't going to change. Climate change is not going to go backwards. It won't undo itself. Not like this, right? The issue with immigration globally has a lot to do with unequal wealth distribution. Okay, so it's not what, like, the knuckle draggers would have you believe, or the people who manipulate the less informed. They know who they are. We know who they are, right? That it's not what they would have you believe. The reality is that there is a global wealth inequality, and that is contributing to tremendous amounts of poverty in many, many places. And listen, if we were living in those conditions and we had a chance to move someplace where we might be able to survive and maybe even thrive a little bit and take care of our families back home, we would be doing the same thing. We would be doing the same thing. So there's that. And also too, one of the things, one of the little conversations going on is about this whole thing about babies, right? Not having enough babies, right? We've got a whole theocratic movement that's trying to take over the country here in the US. Bad, bad thing. Your religion, like your genitals, needs to stay at home in private and only shown to people who ask to see it. Okay? I don't need you to share your genitals or your religion with me without invitation. I'm just saying. So we've got a whole theocratic movement that's trying to take over the country, and they're playing chess. And so far, they've done a damn good job. Got some really smart minds who, again, benefit from the old ways of doing things, which is why they're on that team. So the thing about it is there's also conversations about not having enough babies. Well, here's the reality, folks, in case you missed it. And this has been a conversation for over 20 years. So this is not new. And this is where they're getting their information as well. They're just leaving out a few details. So in first world countries, United States, Europe, Scandinavia, in first world countries, there is a growing baby boomer population, right? Over 60 generations who are going to be literally retiring out of the workforce. We've known this is coming. This is what the big fight here in the US has been about privatizing Social Security and going bankrupt, kind of things. We can't pay all these old people. Well, you can. They earn that money. Taxes, Social Security taxes, all that went into the pool so that they would have this for their old age. We had that money and it should be there. They put that money in. It's their money. The problem is we have a growing population of people who are aging out of the workforce and not enough younger people to fill those jobs to keep the economy going. The world has to keep moving. We've got to keep working. So in first world countries, a lot of educated, affluent people over a certain income level and education level are not having as many children and haven't been for a long time. The birth numbers are decreasing because they're making more conscious, deliberate choices about the numbers of children that they have, when they have these children, who they have these children with. At the same time, in areas, right, which are poor across the globe, they also, interestingly enough, don't have access to reproductive services. They don't have access to good, reliable birth control or even free birth control. There's a whole lot of stuff that they do not have that would help them control the number of children that they're having in a lifetime that they're able to feed. Poor people don't have kids because they don't think about needing to feed these kids. Poor people often have more children than they can afford to feed because, one, nobody can predict the future. Who knew we were going to end up here financially? The other is that they often don't have access or information or education about birth control, family planning, reproductive services. So when you take all of those things away and you literally have a whole group of people that are ignorant of what's available and or the things that are available are inaccessible to them, guess what? Pregnancies happen by accident all the time, right? And good luck telling your husband, right, no, over and over and over again, right? Because it only takes one time for like what, five minutes, maybe, right? So even if you only have sex with your partner once in 15 years, it only takes one time, 5 minutes, and you're going to end up with a baby, right? You don't have to practice a lot to get there. So you've got a lot of poor people with big families that are struggling just to eat, have a roof over their head, keep their kids fed, much less get an education or get an education for their kids, and they're looking for a way to survive. So of course they're trying to migrate to first world countries. That's where all of this is coming from. The thing that you got to know is that's not a bad thing because they are young enough to still be of childbearing ages, which means that wherever they go, they're going to work hard, and they're committed to keeping their families together and improving their lives. And they will fill in these empty slots in the job market that the retirees are being phased out of. There's going to be a link in the description box about an experiment that was done in Riace, Italy. It had the same issue where you have a small seaside village. All the kids left. There was no work there. They all left for the big city. And the only people left in this village were retirees. There's no tax basis. Everybody's retired. And the mayor adopted and embraced migrants that had shown up on the shores and decided to incorporate them into the community. And that town went from going bankrupt and literally becoming extinct, right? Because there was literally no money in the town, to becoming a thriving town that was turning a huge profit and became a huge attraction. It was a positive experiment with positive results because they embraced migrants, into the community to help fill in the economic void that the retirees are leaving. This is where we're at in the United States and other countries, but I live here, so we're going to talk about this. And this is the challenge that we're facing. There are some people who just don't want anybody here. So they're thinking, right, now we're going back to the theocracy, they're thinking that if we just make these women have more babies, because literally this is all out of Hitler's playbook, right? It'll get the women out of the workforce, which means more jobs for the men, right? It will make the women have more babies because once they're out of the workforce, they're dependent on the man for everything, right? Up to and including money for birth control, right? Or you get access to birth control, and they're trying to get rid of that. So even if you had the money or the resources and the ability to go get it, they're trying to take away your reproductive abilities. You won't have a choice, okay? Because they want you to have more babies. But specifically, it's white Christians that are pushing this theocratic thing, right? And you don't listen, you don't have to believe me, just go look, read up and go look. So the idea is that the white nationalist movement, a lot of the racist white organizations that hide behind the cross are pushing for their young women to not have birth control, not have access to reproduction, and to, get away from feminism. How dare you make your own choices? Oh, and make more babies. The problem is, even if this were the plan, here's the catch, right? Even if this were the plan and they were successful in this, there's a gap between the last person retiring out of the workforce and the first group of children, generation of children that will be old enough to work. Okay, so there's a whole lot of years between there where there's not going to be any income. There's no one working. There's not enough people working to support the tax base. And that's why they're trying to privatize Medicaid, because they're literally trying to starve out the old people and let them die, right? Because we can't afford to feed you. We're going to rob you of your money, and we're not letting people come in to fill in the missing gaps in the workforce to help feed into the tax pool so we can keep this going. We're not going to do that. No. Between the time the first wave of forced pregnancies comes to working age and you get your money, a whole bunch of you are going to die off just from old age and atrophy and everything else. So, I mean, I know this sounds crazy. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but this stuff has been going on for a while. This is not new. And this is kind of where we're at here in the United States. So watch what's going on. And the other thing too is, in terms of evolution, here's the thing, right? In terms of evolution, women are supposed to have an equal seat at the table next to men. We are partners, not competitors, okay? And we are not your footstool to heaven. We are not your, oh my God, we're not your subservient slave. We're not your doormat. Listen, some of you get off in this whole Adam-Eve thing where Eve is submissive to Adam and, has no brain of her own or will. She's literally there to service and serve Adam. Listen, if that's your kink, honey, that's fine. But just like your genitals and your religion, keep it at home unless I invite you to show me or share it with me. Okay? The reality is that, we are equal co-creators in this universe, and we've been missing the feminine co-creator for a long time in the teachings, from the holy books that have been, well, let's face it, interpreted by men. Just saying. So we're getting there. We're getting there, but this is the big fight we're in right now. This is the last big tent pegs that hold the carnival tent, the circus tent in place. So as these tent pegs are getting pulled out, because it's time for the circus to move on. It's a whole new show now, right? There are people who are determined to not let that happen, and that's where we're at. So remember, if you've got a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate, you are literally nothing but supporting and contributing and participating in the promulgation of evil, because evil thrives on chaos, suffering, and misery. So there you go. Now let's get to the December horoscopes. All right, lovies, we've got some big stuff happening this month. The first thing that will happen at the beginning of the month is Neptune. Ooh, Neptune will station direct. Woohoo! This is actually a good thing. And towards the middle of the month, of course, our friend and mischief maker Mercury will be stationing retrograde. I know, right? More things to look forward to, but it's not all bad. Well, stick around. We're going to talk about that. And at the end of the month, Jupiter, the party maker, gift giver, will show up and turn direct. Unfortunately, it will happen after Christmas. So for those of you who celebrate Christmas, your big cosmic gifts may not occur until the end of the year as we head into the new year. But you know what? That's okay too. We'll take it. All right, so we're using the lunations. They're time markers. So let's kind of get into it. So the first week or so of December, and this is the quarter moon on December 5th, the quarter moon will be occurring at 12 Virgo on December 5th. At the time of this quarter moon, one of the things that we're seeing simultaneously happening is Venus will have just slid into Scorpio. Woohoo! So for those of you who are all kinds of hot, bothered, and sexy, you'll be even more hot, bothered, and sexy after December 5th. For those of you who are not, it's actually kind of okay, because as Venus moves into Scorpio, it will be opposing Jupiter. So folks are going to be feeling, well, hot, bothered, and sexy. But also, too, the other side of this is big power plays afoot. So watch this first week of December, especially around the 5th or just a couple days after, or for a couple of days after that, for big power plays to come into effect that have a lot to do with money, power, the acquisition of it and the maintaining of it and the keeping of it, right? So people who are invested in things that they don't want a change in, right? They are going to be the most active and freaked out at this time. Flexibility, by the way, folks, in case you forgot, is the key to survival. And that is why the dinosaurs did not survive, because they were unable to adapt, because they were not flexible. So there's your life advice that we're getting from the cosmos now. Now, around this quarter moon, remember the quarter moon is the 5th. On the 7th, not a couple days after Venus slides into Scorpio, on the 7th, Neptune will simultaneously be stationing direct. Now, we've been feeling Neptune station, because remember, outer planets, we can feel much wider time frames from, like, so it's like the wave from a ship moving through the water. You can feel those little ripples long before the ship shows up, casts a long shadow. So Neptune has been stationing for most of November. So weird stuff has been afoot of the Neptunian variety, and it will officially station direct on the 7th, which is fantastic freaking news, because of that Venus-Jupiter power play aspect we're looking at are on the 5th. That's going to kick in on the 5th. With Neptune stationing direct at this time, what we can see is even more emphasis on Neptunian things. So people who are opening their heart lights, literally coming from a truly, genuinely spiritual, compassionate place, all of the positive, wonderful sides of Neptune and or Pisces, the artists, the musicians, the lovers, the creators, the mommies, the kind neighbors. These are the people who are going to get a great big cosmic booster shot in the arm, and are going to be even more illuminated. So if you were unsure what to do or how to act or the way to be, follow the people who are walking in the steps of Christ, if you're a Christian, or your favorite prophet that does not involve violence and anger and hatred and all this sort of stuff. Follow the path of Buddha. Big Buddhist energy happening at this time that will carry us into the next year. So this is a fan-freaking-tastic thing. The thing that's important also with this Neptune station is because Neptune is entering the last decanate of its sign. So we only have Neptune here for a little while longer. And then it's going to go into Aries, which is a whole other can of worms. But that's a bit off. Between here and there, this is literally the time we have to make our beds. When Neptune goes into Aries, whatever it is, whatever seeds we have planted, whatever bed we have made for ourselves, proverbially speaking, we will be laying in it when Neptune goes into Aries. So could be good, could be bad, could be hell on earth. Although there are some people who want to make hell on earth right now. But we'll get there. For now, understand that this is a great time to turn your heart lights on and to always, always, always err on the side of kindness. Okay? Now, interesting things about this time, this first week of November also, is that Mercury is out of bounds. Now, Mercury, any planet out of bounds means that it's exaggerated. Like, so if you can imagine, here's a classic example, right? As an adult, think about when you're really freaking out about something, like you've hit your limit and now you're just having a meltdown. You know what that looks like. You know what it sounds like. You know, it's pretty, you know, consistent and usually mostly manageable, right? Now, imagine you yourself as a teenager, or if you have teenagers, think about what your teenagers act like when they're having a meltdown and a freak out, right? The volume's turned up 100 times. Oh my God. And it's literally not necessarily the size of the issue that's causing the freak out that determines the volume of the freak out as much as, you know, the individual. So when planets are out of bounds, it's kind of like that. The volume gets turned way up, regardless of the incident that stimulated the freak out, or in this case, the planetary expression. So Mercury out of bounds means that communications are highlighted this whole first week of December. Communications, words, contracts, contact, connections, neighbors, okay, documents, all of the little things, the transactional things that make the world spin on its axis, right? And we are visual communicative people. We need to communicate. That is how our brains function. That's how we function socially. These are the things that matter. So look for news and information that has to do with things that transfer back and forth, whether it's words, goods, or people. This transactional moving back and forth, the daily gris-gris of life. This is going to be wildly emphasized at this time. Now, with that said, this out of bounds Mercury, which also, by the way, is going to make people more chatty than usual, will be conjuncting the trans-Neptunian Cupido. Cupido. Now, Cupido, it does have to do with marriage and relationships, but more specifically, interestingly enough, Cupido, because the trans-Neptunians are a whole different weirdness. Cupido has to do with community. So Mercury being out of balance, really overemphasizing Mercury things, which include communication, and conjuncting Cupido, which rules communities. There should be, I would expect, a big emphasis on connecting communities through communication means. Now, as of the time of this recording, which is December 27th, I believe, Musk, Mr. Muskrat himself, oh, that man, who, you know, in adolescent fashion continues to get himself into all sorts of hot water because he's a toad mentally and physically. But more specifically, he apparently has gotten in trouble with what appears to be anti-Semitic remarks, which I'm not the least bit surprised by, because whether you care to admit it or not, or see it or not, Musk is absolutely a racist in the I am superior to everybody, and if you don't look like me, you don't count kind of way. So I can totally see him being anti-Semitic and buying into the whole white nationalist thing. But apparently this week he's had a conversation with Israel about Starlink communication services being delivered or made available to folks in Gaza, which of course Israel's like, well, maybe. So Israel is continuing to do what it has been doing from the beginning of this conflict, which is theater. Netanyahu is a monster. He does not have allies and he does not have supporters. He has enablers. And Netanyahu and everyone around him, just like Trump and his administration, that support his actions are monsters. And it's all theater. Literally, it's all theater. They're saying one thing and doing another because they honestly believe we are all that stupid. Oh my God. Maybe some people are, but wow, please don't insult my intelligence. Jesus. So anyway, let's look for that and see what happens. But the communication is a big thing. Remember, Twitter, which is very Mercury, and certainly Mercury Cupido, if I had to describe something, was powerful in terms of the Arab Spring a few years back, right? So the revolution in the Arabic countries, what they call the Arab Spring, and a lot of other smaller countries, or less affluent countries, let's put it that way, the ability to communicate back and forth on the ground with the common people in the community has been absolutely important, critical, necessary, and game-changing. And taking that away is obviously one of the first things people in conflict want to do, is take away your ability to talk to your neighbor, because God forbid people should know what's going on. Okay, so so the Mercury will be conjunct Cupido, trans-Neptunian Cupido. It will also simultaneously be conjuncting the fixed star Polis. Now, Polis is an interesting fixed star and has a lot to do with success and military work. And there is some suggestion that the fixed star Polis has to do with events that pertain to kings and leaders of nations. So we may see some big activity or some game-changing activity where leadership, leaders of nations are concerned, or even actual royalty, or both. And I realize, here in the US, we've been watching all this stuff, and they're trying to give Biden credit for doing whatever Biden does, and I'm sure he's had some contributions to it, but he has not been. Well, we're just not going to get into that because it's complicated. But what I will say is that this around the time that we expected something significant to happen with Israel, based on timing and the charts, last month was the same day that the embassies were closed. South Africa closed its embassies in Israel and closed its Israel embassies in South Africa. Now, I know Israel has a lot of connections and huge investments in diamond mines out of South Africa. So I'm wondering if in the background that those embassies, being South Africa specifically, closing those embassies and having a lot to say about the moral turpitude involved in this action, is not what drove efforts to get Israel to come to the table in terms of negotiation. I could be wrong. I don't know that much about diamond mines in South Africa and Israel and their connections to it, but it seems to me it was pretty telling. And people who move with power, that level of power, they're not showmen. They're not out in the open. They want to be in the shadows behind the scenes, like the wizard in the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain where nobody can see them. So I'm pretty sure that those diamond mines in South Africa and the South African government having a big say about this Israel behavior is what led to Israel finally unbunching their panties and coming to the table for negotiation. Now, how long this lasts, that's a whole other conversation. But all of this is to say, in my long roundabout way, that this first week of December, with this Mercury out of balance conjunct the fixed star Polis and Cupido, the Transneptunian, I'm guessing that this is going to be a very significant thing. Israel should definitely come up in the news, and I think that South Africa may have had a lot of influence, or the people connected to South Africa may have had a lot of influence about how things start moving now. So, whew, there you go. In your personal life, because this is really, this is all very fine, well and good, Miss Jenny, but I have a personal life. I have a life to live. Help me here. Okay, so in your personal life, the quarter moon is with the sun in Sagittarius and still near Mars, and the moon in Virgo. This will absolutely force some decisions. I mean, some of us are going to be energized and like, let's get her done. And you're going to suddenly have a clarity that you did not have before, because that moon out of the quarter moon will be trining Jupiter and Uranus. So expect a lot of uplifting, a lot of elevating, both personally and in a metaverse, right, in the big world. Also, because it is a quarter moon, decisions may be made, actions may be taken. We may finally get off the pot, right? We're going to get off the damn porch and go do something. So really positive things can come out of this. The other thing I want you to note is that this quarter moon will set up a grand trine to Uranus and Pluto. So things that have to do, here's the important part, folks. Things that have to do with the greater evolution of you. Things that will help move you towards your true essential being in a much larger sense will be part of this momentum happening around this quarter moon. So even if you're living what seems like the most boring, mundane life ever, don't you kid yourself. From small, a small tiny acorn, mighty oaks do grow. So there's a whole lot of stuff happening right now that are contributing to the greater good and you becoming a more fantastic version of yourself in big, big ways. But you may not realize that what's being planted right now are big, big seeds. So there you go. Now let's take a look at the next. Alrighty, now when we get down to the new moon at 20 Sag on December 12th, we got some interesting stuff happening. So the first thing, the new moon is conjuncting Mars, and it's in Sagittarius. So we may see, unfortunately, a spike or an increase in military type of action, more heavy male dominant energy, more war as a form of sport, as opposed to, well, I mean, they'll say it's for the principle of the thing. That's a very Sagittarius thing. It's the principle of the thing. But the reality is it has more to do with getting out and exercising their legs. The problem is this particular new moon with Mars will still be squaring Neptune. So it's it may look like something out of a comedy, right? So if you've ever seen movies or TV shows where, the military is involved, but, it's a bumbling, clumsy, things going exactly the opposite of the way they need to, confused sort of thing with, the military, the operators in these militaries. This is kind of what we're looking for with this new moon. So actions that are not taken with the highest principles involved. And I mean highest principles in terms of your heart and spiritual light, not people's wallets and checkbooks. Those are the things that are favored and protected, right? But things that are driven by, well, deceit, right? Deceit, manipulation, misrepresentation, and also lying to yourself as much as you're lying to other people. No, 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 it needs to be done because it needs to be done. Yeah, this is not going to be a great time for you. I'm just saying. So for those of you who are trying to live your life the best way you can, modestly, simply, kindly, get some popcorn. Get some popcorn and be prepared for people to just, ooh, be people. All right, and more than usual. But again, Neptune is on our side. Neptune has gone direct. Neptune is in Pisces in its rulership, and Neptune is totally jamming up the works for this otherwise contentious new moon conjunct Mars in Sagittarius. So the girls rule, boys rule. So the feminine energy is strong and supportive and protective, and anything that is the opposite or antithesis of that is going to be, well, things will not go according to plan. Okay, now at the same time, things that we are looking at. So that Mercury it's approaching its station, and at this time, Mercury has moved closer to its trine to Jupiter and its sextile to Venus, which again supports practical, pragmatic, realistic thinking, not paranoid, conspiracy theory, brain-addled, porridge for brains kind of thinking. So organized thought, critical thinking, good strategies, long-term planning, right? And conservative risks. These are the things that are favored around this time. Now, the new moon is the 12th. Mercury stations retrograde on the 14th. So we got to watch that. So this Mercury trine Jupiter sextile Venus that I just talked about now, this is what we want to see. This is the only, well, not the only, but this is the primarily most safe way to get through this Mercury retrograde. So you may want to scale back on your risk taking, maybe even your indulgence spending. Just scale back. You don't have to give it up entirely if you've got that kind of funding. But definitely think in terms of what's going to be best for everyone around you that you care about. In the long term, that is the least destructive. Least destructive, because remember, Sun, Moon, Mars squares Neptune. Destructive, Sun, Moon, Mars will not be supported and in fact may be undermined by the cosmos, Neptune. Just saying. Just saying. The other thing that will be happening at this time is that the moon, with this new moon, the moon will be out of balance. It means people will be more emotionally excessive than usual. So I would look for a whole lot of emotional, impulsive decisions that are just bad ones, driven by impulse and emotion. Those are always the worst way to make a decision. The Sun and Pluto will be parallel, which also means power, power, power. There's a handful of people that are in positions of power around the world, in your life, at your job. Like everywhere you go, there's always somebody at the top of the mountain that holds the important keys, right? That wields most of the power over other people. Unfortunately, these people are not exempt from the influence and cosmology of the world we live in. So they may be making a lot of power controlling, emotionally driven decisions that only maybe benefit themselves or maybe benefit other people. We'll see how this plays out and what their level of evolution is. So they could be like the man who owns Costco. Bless his heart. I love this man. I will support Costco until he's gone. Who decided he didn't need to be a billionaire. So he set his company up so that the employees get paid good, solid wages and they have profit share. And all. Costco is an amazing company. You should look it up sometime. So there's that side of the equation versus Jeff Bezos, whose company is designed literally to hurt people, and extract them, and Walmart, to extract the most you can possibly squeeze out of a human being before actually killing them. So with the least amount of cost to you, right? Those are the two sides of the coin we're looking at under this Mercury station, and this is the things that we will be wrestling with as we go through. For you in your personal life, it will be the same ethical, moral questions you're going to have to ask yourself when you make your decisions. Like everything else in life, it's the golden rule: do what's right, do what's fair, act with integrity, right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And avoid destructive, impulsive, aggressive actions. These will not go well. Okay, so this brings us to December 19th. We have, now Mercury just went retrograde a couple days ago, right, on the 14th. Now, this particular quarter moon will be the Sun in Sagittarius squaring a Moon Neptune conjunction in Pisces. So, and it's at the 27th degree. So, one of the things we can expect at this time is closure, right, or things coming to completion or fruition. So, culminating things. Look for things that happen around the new moon, around the 12th, right, and see in your life and see what's coming back into play now around the 19th. Remember, always give yourself a couple of days back or forth, because things that were initiated or started or set in motion around that new moon may be coming to culmination or closure or resolution here around the 19th. So be prepared for that. And remember, things that are taken out of your life make room for better things. So it either creates, because it's always creating space, right? Because there's the hole where that thing used to be: person, experience, memory, whatever, your money. um, if you must give something up at this time, it's okay. It's making space in your life for things that you need more, like clear views, right? Because in order to see clearly and have a clear view, you've got to have space, right? Good open space. It may be new people, it may be new experiences. There are important things that are coming from this through this, but you got to make yourself kind of okay with it as best you can. The other thing is that Mercury will be trining Jupiter at this time. Both of them are retrograde. Now, the reason this is important is because Jupiter is the ruler of both Pisces, ancient ruler of Pisces, as well as the ruler of the Sun, which is part of this quarter moon configuration. So this Jupiter retrograde factors in very heavily to what we might be experiencing during this quarter moon. With Mercury having just gone retrograde, trining that Jupiter, this could also you ready for this? It could also be reconciliation. So there may be things from the past being brought forward to the present so that you can finally either get closure or reconcile with it. Remember, not everything has to be loss, right? Sometimes the closure that we're looking for is not that we're letting something go and saying goodbye. Sometimes the closure we're looking for is things coming back into our life so that we can do it right this time, right? Or so that we can finish what we started. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck is a classic example. I mean, the relationship itself is not great, but their compatibility is not actually the purpose of them being together right now or getting married. They literally, because they were both under a Venus cycle when they came back together again, they're literally, for them, the closure that they needed was reconciliation so they could finish what they started. That's what that relationship is all about. So, we'll see how long that lasts. They're older now. Old people move slower. They may just be waiting for each other to die. That's a whole other conversation. Anyway, so all this is to say, there may be things in your history that come to the present day so that you can reconcile with these things or make reconciliation with these things and decide to stay and do it differently this time, or decide to finally let it go completely. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Venus will be opposing Uranus at this time. So here's what I want to give you guys. For those of you who are dating and mating or initiating new relationships or jobs at this time, please be prepared for things to not go as expected, and what you start with may not be what you end up with in huge dramatic ways. So Venus and Uranus opposed like this, especially in the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio, is a particularly unstable, unpredictable placement. So, the vehicles that things arrive in may not be the vehicles that you end up driving out with. So just be flexible and be prepared for that, and understand that whatever's coming in may not be there and meant to last. It may literally just be a catalyst to get you off the damn porch and out on the freaking road so you can go somewhere with your life. You never know. You never know. Okay, now the good news is that Venus, as part of this Venus-Uranus opposition, will also be trining Neptune, which is part of that quarter moon. So this Venus trine that moon Neptune as the quarter moon will also gentle and soothe and soften any blows that come from this. So your love goggles may be on, which is great for those of you who are in committed relationships. It's going to be a really easy, believe it or not, easier, nicer time to be kind to each other and to remember and see all the good things you loved about that person the first time you met them. And for those of you who are single, dating and mating, this is certainly going to put the love goggles on you. So be aware that you may be romanticizing people a little more than usual, and that's okay because we need beautiful things in our life, even if it's fantasy, right? This is why we love movies. Just don't make any major important life decisions based on the romantic love goggles you're wearing. Enjoy it for what it is. Love affairs are beautiful things. It's exercise for the heart, but do not get married if you can avoid it. Don't run away to Vegas without a prenup. Don't sign over the house. Don't co-sign loans. Don't do anything that has Saturnian real world pragmatic considerations and consequences at this time. Just enjoy the love for what it is, right? Okay. Alrighty, we're coming down the pike. We are now at December 26th. This is the Christmas week. I think Hanukkah is the week before. I'm not Jewish, so forgive me. But the end of the year, I mean, we're literally hitting the end of the year now. Okay, so December 26th, we have a full moon at 4 Cancer. Woo-wee, doggy. So this promises to make this end of the year holiday, getting ready to start a whole brand new year on the calendar sort of thing, very, very poignant and bittersweet and very sentimental and emotionally charged, but in good ways, So the sun that's part of this full moon configuration will be trining Jupiter, which is great because Jupiter is in a few days about to go direct. So we're under the Jupiter station as this full moon is occurring. This is going to, believe it or not, it's hard to see from here, but this is actually going to give us an opportunity and probably some reasons for a lot of us to be optimistic about the future, and also a lot more unity. Who knew? So people often think of full moons as being very divisive and splitting things, right? Really polarizing things. But in this particular case, because we've got Jupiter involved and Jupiter's retrograde pulling everything back home, come back home, come home, lassie. Sorry. There's a more unifying effect with this. Now, Venus will also be trining Neptune, which really raises the consciousness and brings us up to a higher level of spiritual vibration. So we're all going to be grooving to a more compassionate, kind, loving kind of energy, which, wow, we really, really need. Now, mind you, there will always be outliers who are just hateful little trolls. They're operating from ego and conceit and vanity and bitterness and resentment and blah, blah. Like, pick your keyword, right? Chaos, suffering, and misery. Like, that's all they want to do. That's all they ever want. You're not going to get them to give it up. Those people are always going to be there. But we're not talking about them. We're talking about the majority of people, not the hardcore, like, active participants in trying to get your mind right and evolve. Evolve, damn it! But also the larger mass of people that form the ring around us that make up most of the world. These are the people I'm talking about, and we will all be participating and wanting to participate in a kinder, gentler, more loving place at this time. We will really finally be coming to a place where unity, feeling cohesion in the community and unity from a place of kindness and love and respect, right? Embracing the good things about each other. Will be the driving force and energy at the time of this full moon. And if that's not something to look forward to and end the year on, I don't know what is. So I don't know what's going to happen as we get close to this full moon, but look for symbolic events that will drive people to come closer and to unify, right? Even more than we're experiencing now in different places. So, there you go. Now, remember, dun, 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 dun. So this is December 26th. Now on the 24th, 2 days prior to this, Mercury will be at 28 Sagittarius. And honest to God, I don't know why I had that. Or no, I'm sorry. I know it's there. Mercury will be moving into... No, I don't know why it's there. Forgive me. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Jesus. Too many notes and not enough notes. Okay, anyway. Jupiter will be stationing direct on the 30th, like a couple of days after the 26th. And when Jupiter stations direct, We can all breathe a sigh of relief. And also Jupiter will be sextiling Saturn when it does that, which pulls in, and trining the sun, which pulls in a more committed, realistic, level-headed approach to moving into the future. Jupiter rules the future, Sun in Capricorn, Saturn in Pisces, all involved in Jupiter being retrograde. Level-headed, organized, structured, disciplined, measured, well-measured movements towards a productive future. So that's a positive, beautiful thing, this Jupiter station. Now we're feeling it all month long because, outer planets take longer to turn, so we feel them sooner. So we've been feeling this movement, right, towards a more compassionate, unified, cohesive, level-headed approach to things for a while now, maybe mid-November, right? But definitely all through December. And it comes to culmination in around the 26th, right? And certainly on the 30th. In your personal life, all of these things apply. So I would suggest that at this time, you guys are going to have, however this is expressed in your personal life, you're going to have the opportunity to experience and feel compassion and love, even if it's not from the people in your immediate circle. Some of us don't have the best families. I get it. And some people don't have a lot of friends. I get it. Maybe your friends have died off. Maybe you're just alone. Maybe you're like the odd duck in a place where everybody's in lockstep formation with each other except you. I get it. Totally get it. But the beautiful thing is by the time you get to the end of the month, even you, my friends, even you who feel like you're out on a little boat in a big ocean all by yourself, will have the opportunity to experience that feeling of being loved and embraced and accepted as part of a bigger group, because you do matter, and we're all going to be feeling it at the end of the month. So that's a good thing. Hey, so first things first, just so you know, I honestly intended for this video to be 20 minutes long because I really wasn't even going to do it at all. I'm so done with people. Jesus, evolve, damn it. But here we are, and I honestly felt it was important to have a conversation about how we ended up here. As somebody who is a woman and clearly not looking like the power team here, I'm not enjoying any of the benefits and advantages of the old ways of doing things in the old world. So it's been a struggle. And also too, I'm on the other side of the timeline. I'm nearing the leaving the planet side of my life. So it's very important to me what's going on in the world, because this is what we're leaving behind, right? So, oh my gosh. Anyway, so that's what a lot of this is about. And the most important thing is that we pay attention, because when you pay attention, you keep people honest. And that is why also we've had such a huge issue in the last 20 years, because people are figuring out that this is how it works, right? As we become more sophisticated, things get more complicated. That if we can distract you or manipulate information, or make it like literally like a magic show, make you look over here when the real work is being done over here, right? Then we can get away with all sorts of stuff. They've been doing this forever. It's just that as an audience, we're also becoming more sophisticated, so we understand what's happening. So the most important and powerful thing you can do, even if you do nothing else, it's pay attention. Okay. So there's that, and that's it. So I'm going to be opening an Etsy shop. I think I'm doing a lot with jewelry and stuff. I'm really liking it, and you might like it too. I'm going to put a little video clip right behind this so you can kind of see what I'm working on. And if you're interested, let me know and I'll give you the link to the Etsy shop when it's open. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being here and supporting the channel and viewing and listening to me. It's been an amazing 7 years. It's been an amazing 7 years, and this has helped me. I'm hoping it helped you as much as it helped me. Getting this stuff sorted out and kind of looking ahead to the future and how to navigate these timelines. And that is it, my friends. So you go be awesome. Have an amazing holiday. And remember, we're heading into the better part of things. We're heading into the better part of things. So we've got some amazing, amazing timelines ahead of us. It does not have to be this nihilistic, dark ages, gloom and doom, the world is going to end prophecy that some people seem to buy into because they hate their lives. They don't want to be here. They hate their children. They don't want their children to have lives. So they're buying into this fantasy that the world's going to end, hellfire and brimstone, blah, blah, blah. And whoever's left will enjoy, eternal salvation and happiness under, the good Lord God, whoever happens to be the one that wins the war. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way, and we're trying to move away from that. So, hang in there, baby. Okay, and most important of all, remember, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Netanyahu is a monster. So is Trump, and so are the people surrounding them and doing their work in their shadows. Pay attention. Are you still here? That's awesome. So this is what I've been working on. I started playing with resin, and this is the stuff that has come out of it. So I'd like to say this is all talent, but honestly, I really believe that a lot of this is divinely inspired because a lot of these are happy accidents. So I mean, call it what you will. So this is what I have. I'm thinking of setting up an Etsy shop. I'm definitely going to set up an Instagram account so I can keep record and catalog the work that I have done as soon as I get the photography skills mastered. Product photography is a lot more difficult, especially with shiny stuff like jewelry, than you would expect it to be. So I'm working on developing those skills. If you have an Instagram account, please put your Instagram account name down below, and I will connect with you as soon as I have my Instagram account set up so that we can have a whole community network of crafty astrological folks, because I think that would just be lovely. So if you certainly have handcraft that you do, I would love to be able to help share that with the world for you. Because, people who make stuff, man, they're awesome. It's a whole different way of living when you're making stuff by hand. So that's it. And so I'm doing all sorts of crafty things because it's keeping my sanity together. I just made an amazing yoga bag. I'll put that on Instagram as well. So that's it. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for letting me share. And remember, you're awesome. And don't let the world convince you otherwise. Okay, so no matter what's going on in your life or where you're at, up, down, sideways, backwards, it doesn't matter because ultimately the real essence and definition of success and the work you're here to do in life is about your inner world. It's about you being the best possible version of yourself. Because Lord knows, I've got plenty of people out here who've navigated the material world very successfully, and they are horrible human beings. That's not what this journey is about. All right. I think you're awesome. Talk to you soon.